Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. I'm CJ Baumgartner, joined by Ian Rivers. And Ian, another guest on the podcast here today with Bemidji State assistant coach Davis Schaefer, joining us here with the Beaver baseball team. Coach, appreciate the time and hopping on to want to talk Beaver baseball with us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I appreciate the time as well. It's going to be fun. I like talking about the boys, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty. It's been a pretty good start so far to the year. It's exciting. The first ever baseball guest on the podcast. It's been a hockey centric show, a football centric show, if you will. But we're super excited to give the baseball team a little bit more love here today.
No, appreciate it for sure. I know the guys are, a lot of what we wanted to do in the recruiting process coming in, obviously, to a program where it's not where it wanted to be. A lot of it is like we want guys that want to be here to win for the first time for a while. And I think when you get the right group of guys together, and obviously, again, I don't think I'll ever, as a coach, I don't think I'll ever say, oh, yeah, we're right where we want to be. But as we're getting closer and closer to just being able to compete and win games every week, every weekend, every series, I think it's kind of good to see, obviously, not just you guys, but other people, even in town, when I'm in public, guys stopping me like, hey, like, what's going on? I see the boys are winning a little bit. It's really good because I know there's a lot of guys that put a lot of trust in us to come here from far away. I don't know if you guys have looked up and down our roster, but a lot of non-Minnesota guys that have trusted us, and it's good to see that all their hard work is starting to pay off. So,
yeah, let's take it all the way back to the very beginning. Let's just kind of go back to your roots, kind of where are you from, what got you interested, not just in college baseball, but in coaching and all that stuff. Kind of take us to the very beginning.
Yeah, so I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and then I think third grade, we moved a little further north, just schooling stuff and baseball stuff, wanted to play some more competitive baseball. So just north of Cincinnati, and I went to a big high school, Dakota West. From there, went to Bellarmine University and played. And then ultimately kind of got banged up and got injured. And we had a good year at Bellarmine. Our coach left. And so I ended up transferring back closer to home to Mount St. Joseph. And then honestly, just wanting to stay in baseball, and that with a combination of not being very good at anything else. I don't know. I tried a couple times early in my career to do other things. I did mortgages for a while, which is weird. And I was a high school athletic director for a year. I'm just not very good at anything else. So I will say, you always get into coaching for the wrong reasons. And I know that when I started coaching, that's exactly what it was. And I can tell you exactly when. I have a brother who's 4 years younger than me, and going to one of his games, my first summer home back from college, and seeing like some of the coaching decisions that were made literally at like a 15U level where nobody can, like, whatever. And I was like, this is stupid. If these guys can do this, then I can do this too. And that's obviously transitioned a long time since then. I was 19 years old, but that was kind of what started it. And then I think really being able to learn, I think that's the other thing I like about it is, if you're a prospective student athlete listening to this, or just someone who's in sports in general, if you come across a coach that says they have all the answers, you should probably run the other direction because it's not true. And I think that's what I like. Like, there's stuff that I learn every year that kind of keeps me invested and kind of reinvigorates me. And, I think that makes it a really unique profession.
Yeah. And what kind of got you to Bemidji State? What led you in this direction? What made you want to take a chance to come up north?
Yeah, so just like the players, right, I wanted to coach at the highest level possible. And prior to here, I'd been at a couple Division III schools, and then I coached at Iowa Wesleyan, which was D3 when I first got there, and then they transitioned and were NAIA. So Matt called. I remember it happening really quick, and just kind of you guys said you're hockey guys, obviously, and so just kind of a quick story that ties it all together. Full circle moment for sure. Matt called me on a Tuesday, or texted me on Tuesday. We're going to hop on a call Wednesday. We hopped on a call, and I hadn't even told my mom and dad. I haven't told my parents because, coaches get calls all the time. So, we kind of hit it off on the phone call, and it was a really good interview, and everything kind of happened the way that I wanted it, and obviously the way Matt did. And he called me back that same night on Wednesday and was like, hey, if you want it, you're our guy. And so the story to kind of tie it all in is I remember my first week of baseball, my freshman year of high school was 2009. And my mom, Miami Redhawk. And she goes, hey, after your first practice tonight, we're going to go to Buffalo Wings and Rings, and we're going to watch Miami University play in the Frozen Four. And I was like, awesome. I'm 15. I didn't follow hockey at the time. I have no idea. And we get there and we're watching. I just remember being 15 and being like, who, what? Because again, the only D1 sport, right? So then fast forward almost 15 years, and I'm looking up Bemidji State, and I see all the stuff about hockey, and I called my mom and was like, you remember us going the first day of baseball in high school and watching Miami versus Bemidji State? Do you remember that school? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I think I work there now. And like, that was kind of like, it was so funny, man. You guys know sports are such a small world, but when I started researching it and I saw obviously the conference they play in and just, I love the process, man. That's the thing. Like, I love the process. The team I was with prior to this was Earlham College. We won about 30 games that year, won the conference, went to a regional. And you got to look at the whole equation. But when I looked at, tuition being as affordable relative to other places as we are, and the facilities we have inside with the turf, I thought there was no good reason why we couldn't come out here and run a good program. So, when Matt called me and offered me that, I liked that it was at a higher level. And again, I recruit the same, like, guys with the same reasons that I have. Like, I wanted to be part of the reason why we're going to win here for the first time in a long time. And it was just, I love that challenge. So that was kind of what led me out here.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you bring that up, because I was in a conversation with somebody else for a different podcast I'm involved with. And he's from kind of, a little more kind of in that southern part, kind of Midwestern southern part of the country. And I said, yeah, I went to school at Bemidji State. And he's like, huh. He's like, well, I have some family that's got some connections to Alabama Huntsville, which of course was in the conference with BSU hockey for a while. So yeah, it's all kind of funny how that brings together. So, it's wild. Yeah. What's your early implications here of the first few seasons that you've experienced here in the NSIC? Just talk about the baseball that you guys see on a game in and game out basis.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best, man. I mean, you're seeing guys that, I think that's what good Division II baseball is a lot of guys that are Division I level players that don't really get to that level until they get to college. Almost like you're really talented late bloomers, if you will. And so it's really fun. I mean, you go play Augie the first game of the season, and the pitcher of the year, Ashton Mishik, is just out there throwing 93 from the left side. It's like, yeah, this is fun, man. It's really hard, but it's fun. And I think that's true across the the table here. Like, even this past weekend, like, Winona was, again, they're a really good team. I think they were pretty middle of the road last year, and they run two guys out against us on Saturday, where we lose both games by 1 run, and both kids are like 90, 92, top 93. And it's like, middle of the pack, huh? Like, no, these teams are all really, really good. And realistically, in our conference, like, the teams that are always in the conversation to go to the tournament every year, it really is just who plays 2 months of the best baseball, because they're all good enough to beat you. And that's fun. I think that brings a level of focus and enthusiasm to what we do. But yeah, it's good across the board. And if you don't feel like pitching it, then, there's a solid chance someone's going to put up 20 runs. And if you don't feel like hitting, you might go out there and get 3 hit. Like, it's great baseball. And I think the thing that I'm really impressed with about this conference, and again, in terms of other places that I coach, in comparison, of other places that I've coached, like, the guys on the other teams are all super good dudes. They're really competitive, but they're good guys, and they go about their business the right way. And I think it says a lot about the coaching staffs in this conference too.
You brought up Winona State, and a conversation that we've had a few times on this podcast, whether it's fair or not, I don't know, is the weather side of trying to field a baseball team at Bemidji State. Do you see that as a disadvantage? When you talked about recruiting earlier, do you feel like players would rather go? Is it harder for you to recruit guys that, you're not going to get very many home baseball games compared to Winona State? Maybe Minnesota's cold no matter where you are.
Yeah.
But the snow definitely melts a lot faster, 350 miles south down near Winona area. Do you feel like that's a disadvantage, and how do you counteract that if you do feel like that way?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a disadvantage, but I will say, I don't think the way that I do things. And I think that the attitude of our team, I think on paper it is a disadvantage, but I don't think that that's costed us baseball games. And I don't want that to be like a factor that people are like, well, and it's the same thing with money. Like, again, we're not a fully funded program. That's fine. Again, would I love 9? Yeah, absolutely. But like, I'm not going to say that because then when we fail, that makes it okay for our guys to say it kind of deal. So I do think it's a disadvantage, but I think with the facilities that we have, realistically, I think the only thing that really, really affects is like, there'll be like our outfield when we go play for the first time, maybe only gets a day or two of fly balls on the football field. But like outside of that, when we go play early on, like we're playing on turf, we have turf inside, like we get our reps in just like everyone else does, and we make it work. And I think that's one thing that is kind of surprising when you look at our team is like we field the ball pretty well. We don't make very many errors. I think it's just a matter of, okay, we're not going to get as many. I think it almost helps us with the importance of the reps that we do get leading up to the season, just because they're going to be limited. So we have to make them count. And then like weather-wise, I know you said playing home games too. Like we don't get to do that a lot. I mean, we're about to switch 2 of them in a week or 2, unless something crazy happens up here. But yeah, I think the weather and not playing at home a lot is tough. But with that being said, like it'd be really easy for us to go recruit a bunch of dudes who can put the ball out at 305 in left field because we have the short porch, right? But we don't play here enough to recruit around that. So really the stance that I've taken in recruiting and the route that I've taken is I recruit teams that travel. So like when you look at us, we have maybe like 60 steals right now, which is like 20 off the school record already. I think we have 26 games left to play. But we have 60 steals because the bases are 90 feet everywhere. But I don't want to play we don't play at home enough for us to play the dimensions of a park or recruit left versus right. No, like you have to make contact and you have to be fast and you have to play defense. So I don't really think it's costed us any recruits. I think that like the weather, I mean, there's obviously a few here and there that very early on, because you're either fine with it or you're not. Like, you know what Minnesota is. So we don't get down the road with guys a whole lot, like 2-3 weeks, a month in, and then they're like, I don't know. It's usually like, no thanks. So if they don't say that right up front, we really haven't lost anyone because of that, which is nice. You want to do something, you want to do something, man. I mean, you go do it. So
exactly. There's only so many spots on a D2 roster. So yeah, 100%. It's no, it's cool. I appreciate the insight on that. And, you know, as we get in here, it's you guys' 3rd year in the program, kind of working through some of this stuff. You know, what are some of the biggest areas that you guys, and obviously going from top down, what are some of the biggest things you've seen change with the program, and just some of the things where you feel like, you know, this is the stamp that our staff is putting on it?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the culture. I remember being really, really hard on guys in the recruiting process my first year here, because I got here August 15th of, what would that be, 2023? Yeah, I got here August 15th. And I just remember it felt so like kind of convenient to be a part of our program. And that's just not, that's just not the feeling that you want. I don't know how else to say that. And so I remember that first year, not obviously having a ton of control over the roster that we had, because it kind of was what it was. And there were good players on that team. It just wasn't the right mix, and there wasn't enough talent. So I just remember that first year, all the recruiting conversations I had with guys, especially the non-freshmen, right? The portal guys or the JUCO guys. It was like, hey, this is what we're trying to do here. So if you just want to come here and play baseball, not the right spot for you. If you come here, I need you to contribute something besides hitting the ball out 9 times a year or hitting 280 or whatever. Like, you have to be a part of the building blocks and be a part of the culture. Like, it's an absolute necessity. And that's why guys like Hunter Hyden, Noah Drews, Jack Barnett, those are our 3 captains. Like, those guys have been huge. So the trickle-down effect that I've seen from the culture being in the right spot is like, extra work a couple years ago was not the norm, and it wasn't even in the realm of thinking, right? And now I think you're very much in the minority on our team if that's not what you're doing. There's an expectation and there's a standard that the teammates have for each other now, the guys all have for each other. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, they expect it from me. It's my job. So it doesn't carry as much weight. When your teammates are telling you that there's more there and that you need to do more, and they're showing you, and they're the ones in there at 8:30 in the morning hitting. And we have groups that go all the way until 3:00 when we practice every single day that I don't set up. Like, those are the things that have started to be the reason why things are changing. And I got to give all the credit to those guys. I mean, asking them to do it's one thing, but for them to show up and exceed expectations with it is impressive. And I'm very impressed with them.
As you look from a team, we'll kind of break this down from each side of the field here, but from a hitting perspective, what does it take to be a good hitter in the NSIC? And who are a few hitters that have been standing out for you guys this year that you guys are really proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be a good hitter in the NSIC, obviously, your bat to ball skills. I mean, everyone's going to throw hard. And if they don't throw hard, it's because they're throwing kind of goofy or whatever, man. Like, we had a guy last year who was a submarine guy that was really effective for us. Like, guys are either throwing 90 or it's weird and it moves and whatever. So I think bat to ball skills. And then honestly, just the ability to, like, you have to want to learn and you have to want to be coached. The best players that we have are guys that want critique and they want feedback. If you don't want that, and whether it's coaching or learning, like, if you're not willing to, like, there's nothing that can save you here. There's just not. I know a guy that's done a really, really good job of that is Bo Toma, our shortstop. Bo is a phenomenal player. He's the best shortstop I've ever had anywhere I've been. He's a phenomenal player and he's really coachable, but he learns and he wants to be coached harder. I think his freshman year, he played every game as a freshman. I think 50 out of 50. I want to say he hit 240 with like 5 or 6 doubles and no home runs. And yeah, we had a conversation about getting bigger and stronger. He came back last year. I want to say he was in the 260s, a couple home runs, a few more doubles. I think he led our team in doubles maybe with 10. Right now, I think he's hitting 380. And he's got 2 home runs and 6 doubles, and he's got 9 steals, and he throws 92 across the end. But he wanted to get better and he wanted to learn. And all the times that we failed for 2 years, he learned, okay, I know what this looks like now, and I'm not going to let it beat me again. But yeah, I would say from 240 to 380 in 2 years is a pretty good. He's done a good job, but he's been great. Noah Druge, we had to make some adjustments with Noah last year to this year. He was a transfer whose first year was last year. He hit just under 200, hit 199, which coming in as a guy at Century and then at Arizona Christian, like, he was like a career 330 hitter in college. And he got here and he just had 2 bad months of baseball. He's at like 330 right now. He's on the leaderboard in the conference with 7 home runs already. He's done great. We can go. We have a freshman hitting over 400. Like, they've done well, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our center fielder, Jack Feldman, he's doing great. He's in the 3s as well. And then our other captain and left, Hunter, he started really hot and then he struggled. And I mean, it'd be completely different if he was a freshman or a sophomore, but he's in his 5th year as a senior and he's really athletic and he's really talented. And so we sat down last week and we said, we have to make some adjustments going forward. And it has to be now because there's no more baseball. And then last week, and he went out and hit a home run, had another one robbed, and then hit 2 doubles. Because again, he's coachable and he doesn't care. It's never a personal thing. He just wants to help the team win. It's really hard to make mechanical adjustments in season in baseball. And he was tough for a game. And then we had 3 extra base hits and it was like, oh, okay, sounds good. We figured it out. So they've all done a great job. Those guys, those are the ones that you can see it on the stat sheet right now for sure.
And, to flip it over to the pitching side, what does it take for a pitcher to be competitive in this league? And, who are some guys on the mound that have been really throwing for you? Yeah,
I think, man, the one thing we preach on the pitching side of things is like just winning the race to 2 for us. Like, first pitch strikes are great, but I don't put a ton of value in a single pitch statistic when we take the entire game into account. So our whole thing is first pitch strikes are great, but like, we need to get to 2 strikes before we get to 2 balls. That puts us in the driver's seat. I mean, so I think for a lot of the guys that we have that have been successful, they've won the race to 2 a lot, and then they haven't let guys back in. I mean, obviously velocity helps, but I think to pitch in this conference, you have to take command of the at-bat because it happens on every team, ours included. If you let the hitter settle in, it's going to be rough. I mean, we're a hitting conference. So you have to have an aggressive nature about you, and you can't be afraid to get hit. I give our guys a really weird goal every year just because I think it takes them off of just nibbling around the zone. I kind of give them a fail goal just so it keeps them in there and it allows them to fail. But my goal every year is to lead the country in 0-2 hits given up. If guys hit 180 on 0-2, then if we have the most 0-2 hits given up, that means we're going to have the most 2 outs also. It means we're going to be the most efficient. It means you're going to pitch longer. And I'd rather you be aggressive than put a guy who's an All-American back in the count by throwing a high fastball and a low curveball. Now it's 2-2 and guys hit 335 off 2-2. I'd rather take the 180, bro. They don't know what you're throwing. Throw a good pitch, and if they beat you, they're college baseball players. They're good too. So, just you got to want to compete and you want to be aggressive inside the strike zone. That's our biggest thing.
Yeah. And, it's fascinating. Like you said, the numbers, obviously, if somebody gets strike one or is down 0-2 and that changes and who's controlling the at bat and kind of looking through those statistics, obviously with baseball, there's numbers everywhere nowadays. And whether it's analytics, which kind of gets a broad term, or just traditional stats, video, whatever kind of thing you guys use, what is your guys' approach as a team? I know obviously budgets are limited and maybe you don't get the full-fledged that some other schools can get, but what do you guys do? How do you sift through all the numbers and the data to try and explain to these guys who are coming out of high school, coming in from a transfer, to try and explain to them the best ways to try and be successful on the diamond?
Yeah, I think it depends on the position and the kind of guys that you're recruiting. But for us, like a big emphasis for us this year is like whatever you're good at, whatever you got here for, like whatever that reason is, like we want to be really good at the things that we're good at. And that sounds very like elementary on the surface, but like if you were brought here because you run and you put the ball in play, I need you to be really good at that. That means you're going to be put in a position where guys are going to be on base, or you're going to be leading off, and like you're not going to be able to strike out. If you were brought here because you put the ball in the gaps and over the fence, we can't get timid when we get to 2 strikes, because even with 2 strikes, like you were meant to do those things. So I would say from a numbers perspective, I'm not a huge numbers guy. I think numbers never lie, but I also don't think they tell the whole story. And just to kind of circle back, I know we talked about the race to 2 with pitching. When it comes to recruiting and just the numbers that we look at, that's kind of our approach on offense too. That's our team motto. It's like race to 2 is 2 strikes before 2 balls on the pitching side of things. Race to 2 on offense is for you to get recruited here for us or by us, you have to get to second on your own. Because if you get to second on your own and we only have to score 2 hits to score a run instead of 3, our productivity increases by like 15%. So whether it's gap to gap over the fence guys, or whether you're a single to gap guy that's good enough to run to second base, you got to get to second base by yourself. Like we think about numbers in terms of scoring, not necessarily what our guys are. And then as a team, like we want to win the race to 2, because if we win 2 games, we can never lose a series. So for us, we'll talk about things from like a power perspective or running, but outside of that, hitting the ball hard is good, and so is throwing the ball hard. That's we want them to think about competing more than anything.
Exactly. Ian, anything else to add on?
No, I don't think so. A lot of good points being made. I liked your point earlier about not being able to figure it out until after, getting into coaching. Because I think that's a huge thing for any college student, let alone college athletes. Like so many people think they're going to have it figured out, when they get done with school. And nobody has all the answers.
No.
One thing I figured out about adult life is nobody ever had it figured out. You kind of just learning on the fly as you're going, and you look at people that are older than you, and you're like, oh, so you were just BSing your way through life just like I am now. So
100%. Yeah, trust me, I've gotten beaten enough as a player and as a coach to know, and done enough winning too. Like I've beaten guys that are better at my job than I am. It's just so you don't know everything, because that would never happen if that's true, right? I've gotten beaten by guys that I think I know more than. Doesn't matter. You just trying to learn, trying to be the best, and honestly just trying to prepare these guys. Dude, I'm so proud of my guys. We're getting to the point now, and like prior to our coaching staff being here now, like retention was an issue. 1, because we didn't win, but 2, because we weren't really getting better, and guys weren't having fun, and like there was no plan. Like I like it right now because we have a clear plan. Recruiting's great. This class I think is going to be, we're going to continue to get better classes. Like it's been great, but I'm so proud of my guys because we have like 12 kids that are going to be done after this year, and that's never happened. I think we've had 9 combined in the 2 years that I've been here, just because, again, retention. And like these guys are interviewing for jobs, and they're going to work for great companies, and the end of this year will suck. The end of this year will suck. I will say that, because the guys that are going to leave after this year are dudes that either saw the worst 2 years in program history and chose to trust me that I'm not crazy and that we're going to start getting better and bring in the right guys and all that stuff. And they've stuck it out, and they trust me, and they've all gotten better, and they're contributing. And Bo Berry just got his first 2 career wins as a 4th-year senior in back-to-back weekends. 2 weekends ago, he went 7 innings against Northern. By far, I think he threw 10 innings the whole first year I was here. But like he's one. I mean, it's just, man, they're either guys that have stuck out the worst 2 years or saw the worst 2 years from afar and chose to trust me with the last 2 years of their career if they were JUCO guys. And it's they've set the tone for what this program is going to turn into. And I'm really confident in what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's such an up and down. Like, and it's not, we didn't play great last weekend, the second day. Like, we were kind of close to the team we wanted to be the first day, but I'm really confident in what we're doing. I think that the guys are too, and it's just a matter of doing it all the time now. So really excited about it.
With, a month and change left here of the regular season, what are kind of the goals for the rest of the season? If you guys do X, Y, and Z, what's going to make you guys as a coaching staff really excited as you wrap up the year and look forward to the next one?
Yeah, I think some of the things we talked about on offense and on the pitching side with, like, obviously we play good defense, like I said, but like winning the race to 2, doing the things that we want to do. Maybe we don't always get the product that we want, but doing the things that we want to do. The biggest thing for me is consistency, because like 2 years ago was really hard because we weren't good enough to win. Last year we got a lot better. It didn't necessarily translate to wins yet, but just like the numbers and just seeing the games and just like we made fewer mistakes, we were more competitive. And then this year it's like, well, we won our first series in a decade. And then I know we lost the last game to Northern, but in terms of the conference series, like you kind of went back-to-back series from the conference perspective for the first time. And I think it was like 12 years. But doing that all the time is really hard. And it takes a elite level of focus. And that is kind of where we need to improve right now. And we will. There's no doubt. We have the right guys. And the thing is, like, our guys want to do that. But now that you can do it, now you have to do it all the time. And I think that will be a really good learning experience for us the rest of the way. And I think, for us and what we tell our guys, our goal and our expectation is as we come down the stretch, the last 2 weeks of the season, we want to still be in contention to get into that tournament and maybe make a late surge. I know last time they got in 2013, they were out of it till the last day. They made it as an 8 seed. They went all the way to the championship game. I'm not going to speak about any of that stuff, but with 2 weeks left, we want to be playing baseball that means something. And I think this is the team that will do that for the first time in a while for us, and hopefully make that the standard for whatever year should be going forward. So that's kind of what we're looking to do down the stretch here.
All right. Beaver assistant baseball coach Davis Schaefer joining us here on the Beaver Banter podcast. Coach, appreciate the time so much, and best of luck the rest of the season, and always welcome to come back on this podcast and talk ball.
Appreciate it, guys. I appreciate the time as well. Roll Beavs, man. Roll Beavs. Let's go.
Go. Once again, want to appreciate and give a shout out to Coach Schaefer for joining us here on the Beaver Banter podcast, which is presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or just love cheering on the Beavers, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud supporter of the Beaver Banter podcast. Okay, Ian, let's talk about the big news of the day here for Bemidji State women's basketball. And that's for the first time in, a decade now, there's going to be somebody new manning the sidelines of the women's basketball program.
Yeah, head coach Chelsea Stoltenberg is stepping away from the program. I don't have the news article in front of me, but she is apparently going to be still with the university, just in a more administrative role, from what I understand. But yeah, big news for the women's basketball program. Initial reaction is obviously best of luck to her, in her endeavors. Mm-hmm. Pretty good coach from what I could tell, the COVID era, from what we've said it many times, really set this program back. And it was unfortunate they were never really able to gain the full steam that they seemed like they were having before that. But, at the end of the day, what it is an opportunity to get some fresh faces in the program, and we'll see who gets the new job and what they can accomplish with it. For us as podcasters, I guess it's good and unique that, maybe we have a new coach we can bring on here, and more speculation as we've done for the women's hockey program and, volleyball this season, with new coaches coming in. So interesting to say the least, but yeah, surprising news to get yesterday when it dropped, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the bsubeavers.com webpage, it still has Coach Stoltenberg listed as the head coach on the coaches list. But if you click on her profile, it does say that her new title is Senior Women's Administrator. And she serves as the Senior Women's Administrator and Student Athlete Advisory Committee Advisor. Just to wrap kind of things up, and this is according to her bio page here. The Beavers went 9-17 overall last season, with a 16-6 record overall in the NSIC, trying to see if there was a combined cumulative mark here. And as head coach, in 11 seasons, she went 85 and 197, 56 and 175 as a head coach at Bemidji State. I believe she came from the University of Sioux Falls as an assistant coach before then, and came at a time where the program needed a fresh face, needed somebody new to step in. And, I know that Bemidji State women's basketball hasn't always been, running the conference at the top of the league. But that being said, I think Coach Stoltenberg took over a program that needed a fresh voice, needed somebody to move it into a new era, and also raise the level of play. And it took a little bit to do that. But I know you mentioned it before, Ian, there were some teams around that 2019, 2020, 21-ish range where there were some nice teams that she was able to build up and put together and get out on the floor. And they just were never able to quite come to fruition with some of those teams led by Brooklyn Bachman and more. And they weren't quite able. Obviously, COVID wiped out a complete postseason for them and for a year where it felt like they had a really nice team on the floor. And so it's frustrating that those never quite came to fruition. And I know that COVID had a big mess, obviously, on the season after. So there was a lot of stuff, obviously, out of everybody's control. And the Bemidji State was never quite able to get the pieces right back together to lift themselves back up. But that being said, even though you look at the career record, and again, it's not something where it's like, well, 600 wins and 20 seasons and all that stuff. It still is somebody who had a very good mark on the program. And this is another thing, and especially true. I know we just talked with Coach Schaefer a bunch about this, so it's a good kind of prelude into this, making the program fun to be around and making it a place that people want to be at. And from everybody I've heard with that program, and not to say that I'm in the building every single day, but when I was in school, and I worked in those SID offices, and, we worked with people who talked with her. I'd hear her running and talking in the hallways and doing stuff like that. Not a bad word could be said about her. She was highly respected in that building, highly respected by the media, highly respected by her players. And I think that's going to be something just to keep in mind too, is, it's just hard to lose somebody like that on your sidelines. Not that she's going to leave the university or anything, but still, those are some tough shoes to fill, and it'll be interesting to see who they bring back on and who they want to fill that position. I'm guessing, obviously, you kind of cast a wide search and see where it's going to go. I think just because college, and maybe somebody from way across the country comes in, just the way college sports are, Ian, doesn't it feel like it's going to be somebody from around the NSIC? I have no information on this whatsoever. This is pure speculation. But doesn't it feel like it's just somewhere where, like, everybody in the NSIC kind of knows each other? It's a little incestuous in that way.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. One thing I've learned a lot just from listening in and having connections, and pro sports, college sports, doesn't matter. Connections are huge. Like, you would be surprised how many hires happen just because somebody knows somebody on a personal level. So what does that mean for this job? I don't really know, but it does feel like it'll be from somewhere around the Midwest at the very least, that it comes from. But yeah, it'll be interesting to follow. Hopefully we have some answers within the next couple of weeks or so. Who knows how long it'll take. But sooner we get it in, sooner we can start talking about the future with the new coach.
Exactly. Assistant coaches on staff are Erica Gartner, who also serves as the head women's golf coach, and then Sean Daniels, an assistant coach on the women's basketball staff as well. And whoever takes over that head job, welcome on the podcast to talk anytime. And hey, Stoltenberg, if you want to hop on the podcast and talk about your time and your tenure and share some stories, we'd love to have you on and talk about it and talk about your new role and how excited you are for that. If you're listening, don't be afraid to reach out. We would love to have you on the podcast and come and talk about some of this stuff. So, all right, Ian, let's turn the page from women's basketball. Let's quickly do a little bit of a Beaver tennis update, and then we're going to finish the show talking some college hockey. So what do we got for women's tennis? I know that they had a couple matches up over the weekend, and we talked about a split kind of being something that we'd like them to see. How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, sweep would have been great, but it was a split, and that's good enough for now. 1-6 loss against Minnesota Crookston in the match on Friday, and then they turned around and got a 4-3 win over MSU Moorhead at the Gillette Wellness Center on Saturday in that match. And so you look at the standings with just 4 matches to go. The Beavers currently sit in an NSIC playoff spot in the 4th spot. Just above Minnesota Crookston and Jamestown right now. I don't know how the tiebreaker works out with that. BSU has not played Jamestown. Maybe that has something to do with it, which I believe they have a match coming up relatively
Jamestown is on April 12th, to end the season in Bismarck.
But yeah, I mean, decent results over the weekend. You got 1-1. That's kind of what you needed is at least one. I think maybe I speculated last week on the show about, 3 gets you probably in, 4 almost certainly feels like you're into the dance, and then 2, you might need some outside help. So Winona State, Minnesota State this weekend, going to be a little bit of a tougher stretch. Minnesota State second in the conference, hasn't lost in conference play so far. Winona State, that'll be a big match. They're 2-3. They're right behind you. No idea why they've played one less conference game. Well, so is Minnesota State. So I'm assuming they'll catch up at some point down the stretch here. Maybe they have to play a match against each other. That would seem like to kind of make up, but still a ways to go. 2 weeks out. Well, actually, I think it's 3 because I think there's a weekend off in between this weekend's action on the 28th and 29th, and then the final weekend of the season. So that's your Beaver tennis update for now. Again, you're kind of hoping for a split. Just give yourself a chance. Don't bury yourself going into that final weekend of the season, and then see where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. So Beaver tennis will keep you updated on that as the season continues. Ian, we're going to wrap up the show talking a little college hockey, but first let's talk about the good folks over at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEAVERS.
All right, little college hockey wrap up. The Mason Cup is over. And Ian, I guess the lesser of two evils came away in that. I did not think I'd be saying that sentence, but what happened in the Mason Cup championship over the weekend?
It was a 4-1 win for the Purple Cows of Mankato. 1-1 tie going into the second period. Tristan Lemire and Dylan Godbout. Can only imagine I'm saying that incorrectly for UST. Both
That's okay.
goals.
They don't deserve it.
Right. At this point, who cares? They're not our problem anymore. Evan Murr gets a goal in the second period, and then Luigi Benincasa and Jack Smith adding goals in the third period for the Mavericks or the Broncos, depending on who you're asking. I think is it ESPN that's been calling them the Broncos, or is it?
Weird. ESPN doing a terrible job of college hockey coverage yet again. This gets a separate tangent But what the heck? I'll do it right now. ESPN does a horrible job of college hockey. I don't know why they want the rights so bad if they're going to stick all of the most important games of the college hockey season on ESPN2, never promote it at all, send teams that just jet in, don't care. I mean, if we go back to when Bemidji State last made the tournament, first of all, spelled it wrong on the graphic, didn't have a picture, didn't even know how to say it. Like, you guys are supposed to be college hockey experts. Like, I'm not that you need to fully be able to pronounce every single one, but do you think anybody on the CBS panel outside of Charles Barkley is going to mispronounce the name of a school? Or do you think that they're making sure that they get that right? ESPN's college hockey? Who cares? Like, that part is so frustrating and just gets to my thing with ESPN in general. They're the worldwide leader in sports, they tell themselves. Try and go on their app. It is a nightmare.
It's a terrible app, and it has been for a long time. And they refuse to fix it. ESPN refuses to act. They're so complacent, and they deserve to get knocked down, and they should. Meanwhile, their competitors are just somehow worse than they are in terms of like infrastructure and setting things up. But yeah, ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports by default, and just because they have ungodly amounts of money that they somehow just keep funneling to Stephen A. Smith forever. But yeah, their college hockey coverage is not great. And that's a shame because, I mean, college hockey deserves so much more love and deserves so much more appreciation than what they get, which is basically just paying paying money for the rights for it and then sticking it in the corner and not caring about it at all. That's not just a college hockey thing either. That's your sport with baseball to an extent, and that's pro hockey now to that's anything soccer coverage that they used to have. Like, I actually
anything
did
outside of football and anything outside of NFL and NBA coverage, ESPN's
they just don't care. No,
they don't care.
You know, at the very least, I guess it's good that they gave up the coverage rights to a lot of the soccer because they didn't care, and Fox to an extent does a little bit more. And I don't know, it's still kind of a nightmare either way. Like you said, it's really not good anywhere right now, but
Fox Sports had the easiest lane to overtake ESPN, and they're like, what if we made our entire programming first take? Literally every show, just a studio show with talking heads. Will the talking heads be good? No. In fact, they'll get progressively worse.
Was this real or not? I didn't watch the college hockey selection show, but I saw a lot of
I didn't see it,
buzz about, like, did they actually cut off half of the selection show? I heard it got like started late, and then they were talking too long about certain teams in the early section of the bracket, and then they had to cut it early because the women's college national championship was going to start between Ohio State and Wisconsin. Like, and so imagine being a fan of, one of those teams, like, what about that year that Bemidji State made the tournament? Like, how mad would I be if I didn't even get to hear Bemidji State's name get called on Selection Sunday? Like,
right.
Yeah, we already know what teams are in because it's a formula that predicts it and not people in a room. But, like, still, that's so disappointing if that's actually true that that's what happened. It's just
I'm not seeing anything on, like, the news sites, but again, like that, I'm not saying that didn't
Well, and
happen.
I just saw it on Twitter, so maybe it was just people making fun of ESPN. Like I said, I didn't watch the selection show for what it's worth, so I just bringing it up here as a maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But who knows?
Obviously, ESPN's not going to let that article get to the top, even if it does exist anyways.
Right.
So it, I think, again, I'm finding people on Twitter complaining about it. So this is a UND account, but what the heck is ESPN doing with the NCAA hockey selection show? Horrible stuff. 17 minutes in and not a single thing revealed outside of the top four, which we knew. So yeah, great job as always, ESPN. You totally didn't just completely mail that in. Anyway, we could regardless.
St. Thomas.
It's either this or talk about Mankato, and
yeah, St. Thomas
let's
is gone.
dance on the grave of St. Thomas for a bit.
St. Thomas is gone. They're officially an NCHC school as far as I'm concerned. They won nothing in the CCHA. They accomplished nothing in the CCHA. Sure, a couple of those years were like getting your feet wet in Division One, and like they had a lot of Division Three. Like they had a 3-win season, their first year. Like, can you really count that? Maybe not. But at the same time, I've been force-fed St. Thomas propaganda by every media member in this conference for years now, and they accomplished less than Bemidji State did in those 5 years. Yeah, it sucks because at the end of the day, I do think if they were to stay in the conference, it's better for the conference. Like to have a season like this, it's the only sucky part about it is that Bemidji State wasn't involved with all the teams that were so tight at the top of the conference and trying to make the national tournament. Like that's the only sucky part. It is good for the CCHA, and unfortunately, it didn't pay off for the conference in getting multiple teams in. Augustana just barely missing out. I believe it was Merrimack that stole a bid from Hockey East. They were the first ever 8 seed to win the Hockey East tournament. Augustana left out by 1 spot. So it doesn't pay off on a national scale from that aspect. But at the end of the day, it's a win-win because either you get 2 teams in the tournament, or I get to say, haha, Augustana sucks. They didn't make it. Cool. And then, St. Thomas, similar vein to St. Thomas. Like we had this conversation with Jared like a month ago or whatever it was, we had him on. Is it better or worse that the Tommies didn't win anything and now they're jumping to the NCHC? And man, if they couldn't even win the CCHA, what are they going to do here? And would it have been better if they won? And now your best team is leaving. Who knows? But at the end of the day, they're gone. Back to an 8-team conference. It'll make the postseason a little bit more clear, schedule a little bit more balanced. And you'll still see them on the schedule. As we know, we play them next year around the Thanksgiving holiday. So they're not going to go anywhere. They're still down there in St. Paul. We still are going to play them. So
still is going to be an easy bus ride down. Like,
yes,
they're going to appear on the schedule. We just won't see them 2 series a year. We'll see them once
a year. Exactly.
Yeah. So it'll just be every other year where we take over Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. So
exactly.
That's the good news with it. Like you said, Ian, I mean, is it better or worse to have them leave with nothing? And I would say good. Let them leave with nothing. They deserve nothing. They earned nothing. All they earned was a bunch of people talking about how good they could be in the future. And look, this is to say that people haven't been wrong when they talked about how University of St. Thomas sports in general, we're going to have a very quick adjustment period to Division I level at any sport. Look at their basketball program was a win away from the NCAA tournament for men's basketball. Their football program has struggled a lot, actually, at the Division I level in FCS. But that being said, like there was a few sports where it's like, especially once they got that arena built, they were going to kind of use that as their jumping off point. And look, they are on that trajectory. So I will be fair.
Yeah.
But that being said, it is delicious to see everybody talk about how great they're going to be. And for them to leave the CCHA with nothing, I award them no points and may God have mercy on their soul. Like it just wouldn't have felt right for them. It would have been worse on the conference for them to come in and in 3 years win the conference and leave. I think that would have been a worse look for the conference than them coming in, winning nothing and then leaving, rather than a program literally come from the ground up in Division I, win your conference in less than 5 years, and then, give you not a middle finger metaphorically, but giving you a middle finger on its way out the door. Like that wouldn't be the best look for the conference either. So I don't know. This to say, who cares about St. Thomas anymore? They're the NCHC's problem. Let the good folks of St. Cloud State and University of Minnesota Duluth and UND, they're your problem now. Have fun dealing with that. So. Quickly to wrap up the show, no news. I think, have we seen any portal news? Have we seen any action with Bemidji State men's hockey?
We have men's hockey. I don't believe the portal is open, which is like, it's
the portal's not open, but some people, I suppose, can announce like
NMU players already announced that they're going to be in the portal. So like, we haven't heard anything from the men's side. On the women's side, it was just announced, I believe, yesterday. Issa Godel and Ava Filipova will be entering the transfer portal. Godel will hurt to lose for sure. Obviously, a smaller player, but really good and was a big part of that first line that was so talented this year with Haley Armstrong and Morgan Smith. So that'll be a tough one to lose. Filipova makes a little bit of sense. It's a very stacked goalie room. And Lucas of Beaver territory, who had brought up that she might have been a cut candidate next year anyways for the program, just for reasons that I guess I don't really know the specifics on, but who knows, so it makes sense. She is good. Like she performed well in the net, in my opinion, when she did play, but she wasn't getting any ice time. And there is something to be said about like, oh, sticking out with the program. Like, you know, you got to battle through it. But at the end of the day, a lot of these people just want to play hockey. And I can't really fault her for wanting to go play more hockey somewhere else potentially than the very limited ice time she was getting here at BSU. So, yeah, those are the only two names I've heard so far for BSU men's or women's hockey. Kirkland Irie signed a pro contract. Atlanta Admirals or something like that. I think it was Atlanta. Could be wrong. One of those two is correct. It's either the Atlanta or the Admirals. I don't think it's both.
Is it the Thrashers?
It's not the Atlanta Thrashers. No.
Dang it.
No, it's not. But yeah, so that's two pro signings for the Beavers this offseason, joining Riley Funk that went to Toledo. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess speaking of St. Cloud State, they don't have a head coach anymore. The dominoes have been falling around the college hockey world, especially in the Midwest, with the Gophers announcing Brett Larson being their head coach today. Also, I know the Gopher women also announced their new head coach because Brad Frost had gotten let go as well. So rarely do you see the Gophers make a change at head coach, but now they made two. Obviously, the dominoes for the WCHA, for Bemidji State and other schools surrounding that. But then also there's the, just again with the CCHA, not that they're too impacted by it, but they almost were, because Coach Rabonin of Augustana was allegedly the front runner for the job. And allegedly, I don't have sources. I don't have people in the know. But I will say, I did hear rumors that Rabonin basically was set to go to the Gophers and everything was ready to roll. Like they just had to wait until Augustana's fate was sealed or not, if they were going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. And all of a sudden there's a post an hour later from the Augustana athletic director with him. And it's okay, I guess there was a sudden change of heart. And this gets into it, not to make it a long conversation about Gopher hockey, because who really cares on this podcast, but to make it a conversation of, should we be concerned as Beaver fans that Augie is not only they not only have gotten their program in a good spot early, but also the coach who built them from the ground up seems pretty invested on being here for the long haul? Because Gopher hockey, that is, to be the head coach of Gopher hockey, that's something that doesn't come around very often. And that's kind of the pinnacle of being a Midwestern guy. He's a Gopher guy. He's from Detroit Lakes. Obviously a lot of connections to that program. And for him to turn that down, that probably means he wants to be at Augustana for the long haul.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably many factors that play into his decision to stay. And, I guess, have we even officially heard that he actually got offered the job and turned it down? I assume that that's the case, but I guess I haven't seen any official article about it. So I don't want to, I guess, get too far into the weeds on that. But Augustana is going to be good. We're so concerned about St. Thomas for the last couple of years, and then they announced that they're leaving. So you're concerned for the long-term future of them, kind of goes away, and how good they're going to be in the conference. And Augustana's kind of, in a way, flown under the radar. They have had two solid finishes so far in the CCHA standings, and they won a playoff series this year, obviously against us. I do think that the program is investing a lot in their hockey program. Yeah, I think that they're probably going to be a perennial home ice team. They're going to be one of those teams that, if it's not home ice, it's a disappointment. Up there with Michigan Tech, Minnesota State, and I would hope Bemidji State's got that same mindset, but unfortunately for us, it's been 3 of the last 4 years without home ice. And of course, a McNaughton Cup sprinkled in there, so maybe we take it. Compared to, would you rather have 4 years of home ice in the playoffs, and then no trophies to show for it, or would you rather have 3 years of moderate disappointment and 1 year of?
What would you do would you sell your soul for a championship, basically?
I mean, I would sign up for 2 more years of subpar, this year and last year level hockey, if we would have won that Mason Cup 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been 5 years. I don't care. No home ice for 5 years. Doesn't matter. Give me the Mason Cup. Give me an NCAA tournament bid.
Would you have taken that win over Wisconsin, knowing that you were going to have a heartbreaking loss in the Mason Cup final the next year? 100% yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that's so. Yeah. I mean, Bemidji State has shown when they have their opportunities, they make the most of them, even if they're not perennially every single year pushing top 3, top 2 in the conference. They make the most when they can put their opportunities together. So it's just interesting. Again, as we talk about the loss of St. Thomas, it's going to hurt the conference overall. But like you said, I think again, this will be the last time I give Augustana credit on the show, and it's only to belittle St. Thomas. But Augustana is another private school that's got some money, that's got a brand new barn, that is willing to, that they didn't just come into this thing to be a part of it. They came into this thing looking to be competitive and looking to spend money and looking to be a team that wants to be at the top of the CCHA year in and year out. And so, yes, you're losing St. Thomas, and there's a world where you could have had both of them in your conference. But that being said, if you go back to 2021 and St. Thomas enters the fold and you just replace them with Augustana, like I think the conference still in itself goes, okay, that's not bad. Like we could work with that. So anyway, all of this is to say is let's just go win the McNaughton Cup and the Mason Cup and go make a run in the Frozen Four next year, and all will be forgiven, right?
Exactly. It's always so just, oh gosh, I yearn for the years like 2021 and 2024, like where things are going your way and you're involved late in the season and people are talking about your name in Bemidji State. That's what I want, man. That's what I want. I can't wait. Hopefully next year they're back on top of that mountain after a couple of years in the bottom 3-ish, bottom 4 of the conference.
Man, the vibe that the Sanford Center felt after they beat Lake State in that semifinal game a couple years ago, like that was fun. I hadn't been to a hockey game in a while, and to go back to that, to go into that environment for them to win, to see the Sanford Center full. I want it. I want it so bad. I want it. I want this program to be competitive. I want this program to be fun. And I think that there are people in place that can do that. I'm not saying that like we're never going to be, but dang it. I want it to, it's the Family Guy meme. It's Peter Griffin running around the living room. I want it now. Like that's exactly what it is. So, Ian, anything else to say before we wrap things up?
No, I don't think so. Thanks again for Coach Schaefer coming on, joining us today. That was a great talk. Happy to give the BSU baseball boys some love. They're having a pretty good season so far, all things considered. So hopefully it continues for them. Hopefully tennis has a good weekend this weekend. Softball struggled this last week. I don't think they won at all, but they're back in action again. I don't know if we brought that up this weekend. So best of luck to all of our spring sports teams as we push towards the month of April. As Coach Schaefer said before he left, roll Beavs, and we'll do the exact same thing. Roll Beavs. We'll see you next week.